Continuing to rise. In fact, it's rising rather rapidly. But overnight, we had flash flooding here. Thankfully, there were no water rescues necessary as far as swift water rescue. However, they did have to get some people out of their flooded out cars. Let's talk to Joe Pager. He's the Deputy Director of Public Works here in Wichita. So Joe, tell me, we had really nasty weather yesterday, severe weather. How did the night go? How are your operations as far as Public Works and draining all this water going? Give us an update.
We were busy overnight. We cleaned about 280 inlets, and we inspected another 1,000 that we thought we were having problems with, but it was just overwhelmed by the water. So we worked all night, 4 crews, and that had a pretty good impact.
Great. So I do know, again, there were water rescues last night, nothing swift water. People weren't, being swept away, but still, they got themselves stuck. Did you make a dent in, hopefully not allowing that to happen again, or is this just an ongoing process?
Well, the good news is we should be able to hold it to what we'll call nuisance flooding problems as opposed to structures or life endangering. The river that you're seeing coming up here can't come up too much higher because of the way our flood control system works. It limits the maximum height so that it can't flood the downtown area in the center of the city. That water shunts around the west side of the town through our flood control project.
That's something you guys call the ditch, and it's basically like a big French drain, right?
Well, it's actually a large ditch that has a structure that lets the natural amount of water that would normally come through the river come through, but the high flows are blocked, and when they're blocked, they have to go around the west edge of the city, ditch.
When did the Army Corps put that in?
It was in the late 1950s.
Okay, so it's been functioning well for a long time.
It has, and it's still certified to this point. It's 100 miles of levee to create that protection for this city.
Well, and Joe, as you look to the ever-increasing intensity of storms, length of storms, more rain, more severe weather, we get it every single year, right? And this year is a really nasty flooding year. Do you see in the crystal ball of this city an eventuality you'll have to increase the ditch's size to hold up for more water?
That is certainly a possibility. It would be a major undertaking to do that, but we are carefully looking at our assumptions and our plans as to historical records and how they might relate to what we're experiencing today and into the future to plan exactly that type of project.
All right, and looking towards the end of the week, I know flash flooding is another potential. Thursday, Friday, Saturday is more nasty weather coming through. With 15 seconds to go before commercial, actually, we'll talk to you after the break, okay?
Okay, I'll be here.
We're going to have to go right to it. So, Weather Channel will be right back with more from Wichita.
Right now, breaking on the Weather Channel, I want to get you caught up with the tornado situation that we're following. And right now, this is a look at a couple of tornado warnings, all within a watch area. So conditions not only favorable for the development of tornadoes, we are seeing enough on the radar, and the local National Weather Service office is seeing enough to say, hey, there's likely a tornado within this line. For parts of Johnson, Logan, and Pope counties, tornado warning in effect right here. This is for areas right along Interstate 40, just to the east of Fort Smith, Arkansas, if you're familiar with the area, as the storm is generally going off to the northeasterly direction. And into an area that is also seeing some severe weather is right here, just outside of Branson, Missouri, a popular tourist destination, of course. And right now, some heavy rain rolling in with a possible tornado associated with that heavy rain that's moving in. Been a lot of lightning associated with this line, and looking closer now at this and zooming in, trying to see exactly where this possible tornado is located. This is well to the west of Branson, Missouri, and it's generally moving off to the north as this whole line is moving east. So we're watching this line as it's moving. Within it, you have this rippling essentially kind of going on there, which is associated with this possible tornado. Again, a couple tornado warnings we're following right now with an area that is under a tornado watch. So conditions remain favorable. That's the watch. Warning, either it's happening or it's about to happen, whichever type of weather we're talking about. In this case, it is a tornado warning, but also some of these green outlined areas, including north of here in the Springfield, Missouri area, where flash flood warnings are currently in effect. So we'll continue to track the threat for more of the most dangerous weather, and this dangerous weather is coming in multiple forms today. Tornadoes, flash flooding, of course, is one of the big ones, and then there's the river flooding that has been ongoing. Let's go to Wichita right now, back to Kansas. That's where we find Justin Michaels. Justin.
Yeah, well, Mike, or Chris rather, we're in a flood warning here right now, and also a flash flood watch. And that's going to extend for probably quite a while because there's more potential for flash flooding later this week. Let's continue our conversation with Joe Pager, the Deputy Director of Public Works here in Wichita. So Joe, as you look to the future, let's go back to that last question of drains across the city that might lessen the blow if we do get more flash flooding this week.
We will do a little bit of cleaning of the most suspect areas that we found in the last couple of days, but by and large, this has to be, and it is, an ongoing business because we cleaned 280 inlets last night. We have 60,000 inlets to clean.
Wow.
So we're not going to touch most of those during a storm event. We have to be prepared ahead of time.
And Joe, last question I have for you. Have you ever seen a severe weather season, wet season, spring like this before when it comes to how much water has come down as far as rain and flooding and everything else?
We've had a lot of water in a concentrated amount of time, and that's part of what we're seeing in terms of the change of conditions that we have is the records for the averages may not be varying very much, but the intensity and the durations are changing such that they're more extreme events.
So you are seeing
yes,
that?
yes.
You're tracking that, okay.
Yes.
All right, Joe Pager, thank you for your time, Deputy Director of Public Works here in Wichita. Just a wealth of knowledge and really helpful, trying to get us to understand the larger problem, Jackie, because we see that all over the country, don't we? We see the more and more extreme weather, and it's causing more and more problems.
Absolutely.
Jackie, into you.
All right, thanks so much, Justin. We want to update you now on the active warnings that are still ongoing, most of which are in parts of Arkansas, but we still have a couple going on in southwestern parts of Missouri. So it's that whole active squall line that we're continuing to watch, and we are getting some little spin-ups of rotation on that. Still, we have the tornado warning effect. This is for Stone County. This includes Branson West. It's very near the rotation near Table Rock right now, so you need to get in your safe place and seek shelter until 2 o'clock local time. South of there, we have our other tornado warning in Arkansas. This is for Johnson, Logan, and Pope counties, including the city of Clarksville. And we do have actually a couple of different areas of rotation potential in that little squall line that's moving on through. And then in between the two, we've got the potential for some damaging winds. You can kind of see some of that Boeing segment right there west of Jasper. Jasper, stay inside and hunker down for now as that squall line moves through and also brings some torrential torrential downpours. We're watching the southern track of this as it moves through the state of Texas and the eastern parts of the state. All sub-severe right now, but some brief heavy downpours and some lightning will be a possibility. And then the upper level low is spinning around, and we're getting some firing up going on here just north and west of Wichita. Those are sub-severe, but a whole lot of lightning right now, and we might even see some small hail with those thunderstorms. So just one more thing that we're tracking at this hour.
This program brought to you by Honda. Great deals are waiting for you now at your local Honda dealer.
Thank you for staying with us live here on the Weather Channel. I'm Justin Michaels, live in Wichita, Kansas, where floodwaters continue to rise along the Arkansas River. Overnight, there were flash floods. People needed to be rescued from their cars, but thankfully, no life-threatening rescues as far as swift water. We'll talk about the water rise coming up live from Wichita, but first, Mike Seidel in Springfield, Missouri.
That's right, Justin, and a new flash flood warning here in Springfield and Greene County, plus more rain on the way, and a tornado watch continues for parts of Missouri and Arkansas until 7, if that's not enough. And speaking of not enough, the rainfall and the impacts as we head west of Oklahoma City. Check in with Tevin Wooten in El Reno. Tevin?
Yeah, that's right, Mike. High water headaches here in El Reno, Oklahoma. It's a windy day, but also a wet day in a sense that the water is creeping up very slowly along the Canadian River. We've seen families, infants, and even pets that have had to be checked on by first responders here. We've got those stories and so much more coming up on the Weather Channel.
And breaking right now, I want to get back to some of the tornado warnings that we are tracking right now. Flooding an ongoing and relentless concern. but it's the tornado warnings that we're watching right now that can spin up in a hurry associated with this line of storms that is currently working through parts of Arkansas and parts of Missouri. Here's one of them. This tornado warning in effect for parts of Johnson, Logan, and Pope counties. This is in effect until 2:15. It is getting very close to Interstate 40. This is a little bit more than halfway between Little Rock and Fort Smith if you're on your way from Little Rock to Fort Smith here in Arkansas. And looking a little bit closer, the red and the green, what we're looking at are winds going in different directions, essentially. That's the easiest way to put it there. The green is a look at the winds going toward the radar, the red away from the radar. So where those winds are close to each other, where those the green and the red is close to each other, and that gives us an idea where there's likely some spin in the atmosphere. You see these little kinks in this line of storms as well. The kinks also indicate that we likely have some very strong winds associated with the heavy rain that's coming through, and we'll time out this whole line. And again, and associated with this line and within this line, there is a tornado, possibly a tornado, at least indicated by radar at this time. And looking here, this is look at some of the individual locations that eventually will be impacted by this storm. A tornado, if it does hold together, if it is indeed happening right now. And just north of this, there is a severe thunderstorm warning. So severe weather, damaging winds, a possibility. That either happening or about to happen. Fortunately, now we look to the north here and no longer seeing that tornado warning showing up here. So getting at least a little bit of good news right now. Unfortunately, still a severe thunderstorm warning within an area where tornadoes do remain possible. Tornado watch does remain in effect until 7 o'clock, and the threat for tornadoes is one thing that we're going to be continuing to track here at the Weather Channel. Also, flooding remains a concern with these storms, seeing some lightning as well. Looks like we got another round rolling in or about to roll into Springfield, Missouri. We saw a line roll through a little bit earlier, had a fair amount of lightning north of the city. Eventually, there was severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado warning, but right now, Springfield still within that watch area until 7 o'clock, and this is also where meteorologist Mike Seidel has been standing by. We go now to Mike, who's getting at least a little bit of a break from the rain from now. But I know, Mike, just by knowing you and seeing what you're holding in your left hand, you've been looking at the very latest information coming in. What are your thoughts as you analyze the radar?
Yeah, a lot better than the fax maps that I used back in the 70s and 80s, I can tell you that. Meanwhile, what we're watching now is another storm coming at us with a severe thunderstorm warning to our south. This was just issued. This goes until 2:30 Central, south of Springfield, down around Reed Springs. See that bow up towards Spokane and then heading towards Highlandville. This is moving north at 50 miles an hour, and the line arcs back towards Billings and Halltown. So this is going to come back into the metro area, south central part of Greene County where we are. We're on the southeast side under a flash flood warning until 7:15 because of the rain last night, because of the rain we just had in the past hour. That storm moved out of Springfield and prompted additional severe thunderstorm warnings and a tornado warning. So this is not tornado warn, but severe thunderstorm warn for the risk of 60-mile-an-hour wind gust and nickel-sized hail that's coming right up at us. So we're not out of it yet. Now, once that line moves through, we look upstream and I see some scattered showers. So this may be it as far as the threat for severe. We're on the far western end of that tornado watch from the Storm Prediction Center. That goes till 7. That includes this area to Branson and down to Little Rock. So light rain right now. We'll look over to the west again, south and west. You can see the skies have gotten darker again over the McDonald's drive-through. So very ominous. Another line coming in, more lightning, more heavy rain. And again, with this one, we could be in a warning where we are. The last storm, the warning was issued after it got past us, and our winds gusted, I estimated, at about 30 miles an hour, which won't do any damage. So we'll follow this. This warning again, just south of us, this is until 2:30, and this covers central Christian County and northeastern Stone County, again until 2:30. That's why we have glasses. And this, again, is a line of storms that can produce wind gusts to 60 miles an hour and nickel-sized hail. So, Chris and Jackie, a break For now, light rain now. The sky's getting dark once again. One storm goes through, another one comes in, waves of rain, and that's why the flash flood watch in this area right now goes until 7 p.m. this evening. Some spots here, and certainly southwest of here towards Joplin, have had over 5 inches of rain. And here in Springfield, we've had pushing 3.5 inches of rain. And the ground is saturated from earlier rains. You know how wet it's been this spring. Yeah. And we've had, for instance, the James River about 1.5 miles of here hit moderate flood stage late last night and this morning.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. Yeah, flooding so extensive there in southwestern Missouri. We've seen a lot of it in Kansas, Oklahoma, just devastated in some areas. So let's go ahead and show you some video and a look at some of the rescues that have been taking place and happening here this morning. And this is just an ongoing thing that's been happening now for hours. This is in Canadian County, Oklahoma, and there you can see emergency crews working to get people out of their homes and get people to safety. You know, earlier today, we had people clinging to trees and having to be rescued in that type of an emergency manner. And now we've got people who have been stuck in their homes. The water has gotten too high and they need to get out. So there were more than 40 water rescues in the overnight hours, and we've had countless rescues that have been ongoing since that time. We want to show you now the latest flood alerts. If we could go to the graphics, and I'll show you the areas that are going to be at risk now for the rest of today. Notice central and western parts of Oklahoma have now been dropped from the watches, but you still have warnings ongoing into the rivers. Eastern Oklahoma, including around Tulsa, much of the state of Missouri, and into eastern parts of Illinois have watches there. We've got warnings ongoing in Greene County. This is near Springfield, where there have been some high water rescues that have taken place. And this just in, breaking right now, a floodgate release here in Mayes County. This is on the Pensacola Dam near Langley, Oklahoma. They are expecting a major flood situation to be evolving here as they open up those floodgates, and they're telling people that you need to be prepared to evacuate. We'll continue to follow that story, but right now we want to head back out live into the field to Tevin Wooten. Tevin, what's the latest where you are?
Well, Jackie, the rainfall has stopped. The flood alerts are down, but the water is far from over here. In fact, the headaches are just beginning for a lot of people here. We are in El Reno, Oklahoma. We saw part of the interstate shut down earlier this morning. That's back open. Part of State Highway 66 was shut down both directions. Half of it's back open. The other half is not, as high water is still covering part of that roadway. But take a look at this scene here. This is State Highway 66 right there. You can see part of it closed. Occasionally we have seen a car or two come from the opposite direction. But look at how much water lies on the left side of your screen here. All of this water feeding right back into this neighborhood, this subdivision here off of Banner Road. We've seen so much water here. It has gone down, but gone down very little. In fact, you can sort of see the water deposit line here where it starts to back up more and more and more. And so some of that is starting to evaporate and dry out, but not by much. We've been here for the better part of 3 hours today alone, and we've seen so much water. We've seen scenes of high water rescues. In fact, look at some of this video here. A family had to be rescued earlier today as a relative called the first responders to say that we believe our family is in danger. Now, we spoke with the fire chief. He said that there was some sort of miscommunication or mix-up because the family that was actually inside the home, they felt okay. However, the fire department was able to get into that subdivision behind me here. They were able to convince that couple and that infant to come out of the house. So that's some of the video you're seeing. So certainly a startling time for a mom and her husband and her infant. But again, they are out to safety. Now, we have seen other people go back inside of this as they want to go check on their home. We saw a lady get into a canoe or a kayak, had a pump in her hand, a water pump. She was going to go back inside of that subdivision to pump some water out of her garage. Now, of course, we don't recommend that, but she did seem like she knew exactly what she was doing. She went back there, and hopefully she's pumping that water out of the garage. She did say she was thankful that the water did not actually get inside the home, again, just inside the garage there. But this is just one of many scenes that we've been seeing all day today. In fact, Jackie, as you mentioned, some more than 36 water rescues by the El Reno Fire Department here earlier today. A lot of that started, in fact, at 3 a.m., so it's certainly a tasking scene or a tasking time to take on as a first responder. But take a listen to how they got through it and what they went through.
Yeah, we've been pretty busy. We've been on for about 30 hours now. Thought we were about to get off, about to head out, and got changed, and then we got called out for another one. So, but it's something that doesn't happen all the time. So, when it does happen, we're ready and willing to help everybody out that needs it.
And the North Canadian River, the culprit to a lot of this flooding here, of course, it's out of its banks right now in moderate flood stage, right at about 19 and a half feet. The crest for that river, that's likely tomorrow morning at 21 or 20 and a half feet there. The major flood stage mark, that's at 21 feet. So we're not expecting to get in major flood stage. We should say in moderate flood stage, but I will tell you this, these problems for anyone going through a situation with a lot of water, that is certainly a major situation to go through. So we are, of course, thinking of all the homeowners here and the first responders that are having to go through this. They were dealing with the tornado threat yesterday, dealing with the flood threat today. That's the latest here from El Reno. Let's get back into the studio with you, Jackie.
All right. Thanks so much, Tevin. Hard to believe that that's just moderate flooding. I can't imagine what major flooding looks like around El Reno and in that area. We want to update you on the warnings that are still ongoing right now, most of which are in northern parts of Arkansas. You can see this whole line, and we've got embedded storms, some of which are rotating at this time. So Johnson, Logan, and Pope, you still have another couple of minutes here of your tornado warning until 2:15. We've been seeing some rotation on the radar there, as well as north of there. We've got an extension here for Boone, Newton, and Searcy counties. This includes the city of Gaither, as well as Jasper and Western Grove until 2:45 local time. You know, it's real tough to pick out rotations sometimes in these squall lines. You just have to trust the warnings that you're receiving and trust that there's a tornado there and get to your safe place regardless. But we're also seeing that big boost on that main line, that even if there's not a tornado within those warnings, we're going to see some really strong winds, and that's going to be a huge concern. So you need to be indoors in a sturdy building and seek shelter. Now, the rainfall rates with this whole line are really heavy as well. Visibility has been reduced, so you may not even see the tornado when there is one. And so we do still have that threat of flooding ongoing. This is on top of the flooding that's happening right now. This is renewed flooding or additional flooding. And notice this includes southern Iowa, most of the state of Missouri, much of western parts of Illinois. This includes the St. Louis metro area. This includes the Kansas City metro area, northern parts of Arkansas. And then notice how large the area here is on the periphery, where there's still at least the potential. So it depends where the heaviest of storms do tend to develop. Now, there's two things that we're watching through the rest of the afternoon and evening. We're watching that whole squall line continue to progress eastward, moving through the Little Rock area, we think, into the evening hours around 7, 8, 9 o'clock tonight. Look at that line developing potentially around St. Louis in the metro area. You've got a ball game allegedly taking place later on tonight. I think it's the Crosstown Rivals, by the way. And then you can see as we head towards the midnight hours, still the potential for extremely heavy rain. And we've got a little bit of storm development too back in parts of Kansas and into Nebraska this afternoon. Under that upper low, we could see a couple of cold air funnels developing there. So a couple of different things to continue to keep our eye on with so many different elements of severe weather today. Chris?
Yeah, and then that threat's going to pick up again later in the week. It seems like it's just been one after another, one day after another, and that's what's going to be happening here. We're going to be watching some of these storms that are going to be heading for the central part of the U.S. And into the Northeast, from the Ohio Valley all the way to the interior Northeast and parts of New England. There's going to be the very distinct possibility more severe weather is going to roll in. In fact, it does remain possible that we severe weather from the Ohio Valley and into much of the state of New York on Thursday and surrounding areas. And this is why quite a bit of warm and humid air coming in, buoyant air that's going to want to rise once it gets going. Daytime heating is going to help with all that. And then we have some of the strong winds, which are going to increase the strong winds up above, which is eventually going to increase the threat for some strong and damaging winds down below. Here's a closer look at the timing and the way this is going to play out. According to one of the computer models we look at, this is the future radar through Thursday morning now. Parts of central PA into eastern Pennsylvania, some of the heaviest rain and stronger storms, and then through New Jersey by mid-morning. And the rest of New England with another shot of some storms by Thursday evening. So possibly a 1-2 punch for the Northeast on Thursday. And of course, we're going to be tracking it for you here on the Weather Channel.